Not Nerd Podcast, episode 329. Win one for the Giffer.
Welcome to the Not Nerd Podcast. I'm Nate Heath, and we're here to help you tech better. Here with me, as always, Mr. Dave Baylor.
And like a light in the darkness, the Not Nerd Podcast comes to you in all corners of the globe.
Yes. Coming fresh off Belgium week of the podcast.
I didn't want to do back-to-back country ones, and so we'll save it. I will say this, though. The next country that we will be highlighting also starts with a B. So all of you geographiles out there, then
yes,
think
I hope it is not Belarus. But with that, we will move on to some follow-up. But before we do that, I don't believe that I have ever done this in the history of the podcast. I'm going to tell you right now, pause the podcast. If you're not already subscribed, go and search out the Mark and ToddCast, our good friends, off-reference podcast. We did mutual, was that episode 100 that we did? Or 200? Episode 200, I think we did a mutual podcast together. But their latest podcast, which released yesterday, if you're listening to this on release day, features both of us.
Yes, we're both on it. And Nate, I got to say, I'm a little embarrassed to say this. That is the only other podcast I have ever been on besides ours.
Oof.
You've probably been on dozens.
I have been on
tens.
some. I did the single file pod with Dylan and his previous podcast. I'm blanking on the name. And then you have done the Mark and ToddCast.
Yes,
before.
but doing it a second time doesn't mean I do a different podcast.
Yes, but Mark of Mark and ToddCast was out of town, so Todd contacted us to try to have us both fill his shoes, and we went over a bunch of news topics and then did Wikipedia Wars, a new installment of that, and we will not do any spoilers, but it is a riveting episode. Riveting. So pause now. Go listen to that, and then come back to listen to your weekly tech news. So we'll give you some time to do that. We'll leave about an hour and 15 minutes of dead air here so that you can listen to that. Oh, wait, that's not how it works.
I think they can pause, maybe, depending on their player of choice. If they're listening to a record,
if it's Todd that uses reel-to-reel to listen to his podcast or whatever he's doing. But no, we had a great time doing that. We recorded that yesterday as we record this now. So you and I are doing back-to-back day podcasts, which I don't think we have done before. But
what if our main job was just doing podcasts every day? That'd be kind of fun.
Yes, I would have to do some vocal training to make my voice last a little longer, but that would be fun. And if we ever went back to when we used to be pretty consistent about coming up with ideas for new podcasts and sharing those titles with our listeners, we could have many podcasts in our arsenal.
So many great ideas we had.
Yes. Well, now let us get on to some follow-up. This is something I think Apple announced it last year. I guess it was that they were going to do driver license integration with the iPhone, and it is launching in the first state, Arizona.
Everybody's favorite state that has digital licenses.
Yes. So it is rolling out to some other states after that, Colorado, Hawaii, Mississippi, and Ohio, as well as the territory of Puerto Rico. And there's some other states plan to offer it. I have not seen Oregon mentioned, and if I know anything about Oregon, they will completely ignore Apple's well-integrated program and spend hundreds of $millions on their own program that will never launch or never work.
And then later they'll adopt it after they've wasted all that money. Yeah.
Yes, much like their Affordable Health Care Act software that they famously spent hundreds of millions of dollars on, and it never worked. And then more recently, they have been working on a vaccine passport offering, digital vaccine passport that was supposed to release at the beginning of this month, March 2022, but I have not heard a single word of it in many months. So I'm sure somebody made a lot of money off of it. I hope they're nice people, and we will move on. But the digital driver's license, I can understand where some people would be, leery of this, concerned of it. One of the nice things, and I believe it was Rich on Tech was talking about, and I had heard about this, is the fact that like at the TSA, like at the airport or certain places, you wouldn't have to even hand them your phone. You could just tap it, and if they had the right stuff, it would give them the information, like your date of birth, if it was age verification, and they wouldn't have to look at it. They wouldn't see your height, your weight, what weight you actually put on there, your horrible picture.
It's more secure.
Yes. I guess they would see your picture, but I think there's some benefit to this, and we'll see how it works out.
Yeah, I'm excited for the 10 years from now when we have it in Oregon.
Yes, maybe by then. So YouTube TV, I use that as my TV service, the unlimited DVR, all of that stuff. Well, they're also adding ad-supported shows and movies. Now, I was trying to figure out, it seems like it's just through YouTube, so you would just use like the YouTube app.
Okay.
But they're adding, and I in some of the content I saw, one of the ones that they have in their photos is Hell's Kitchen, the TV show, which I know that on Pluto TV, previous pick of the week, they have a Hell's Kitchen channel. So I think there's certain segments of TV content that is widely available, and they're going for the non-exclusive rights as opposed to like The Office or Friends that people really want to watch where it's worth a lot of money. But they said that they're going to be releasing, hundreds of new or up to 100 new titles each week. And it says on web browsers, mobile devices, and most connected TVs versus via the YouTube on TV app, which that's what confused me, because there's the YouTube TV app, there's YouTube app that you can get on your TV, and so I don't know if this is a new app or it's a little bit confusing, but
wait a minute, isn't YouTube owned by Google?
Yeah, Alphabet.
Google Alphabet never does any of this stuff where they have like competing products that are the same thing but with different names, and then they'll change it.
Yes.
Some of them they'll kill and then rename the same thing for the other product, and it's very confusing. So I'm not surprised.
Yeah.
Throw it at the wall, see what sticks.
A few of the TV shows, Hell's Kitchen, Andromeda, and Heartland, and then some of the movies like Gone in 60 Seconds, which I actually watched half of on regular TV the other night, Runaway Bride, and Legally Blonde. So
these are some movies people are just clamoring to see again.
Yes.
Since the 80s were a long time ago. So
yes, I was looking last night because this past weekend when I was DJing at the bar after a sporting event, they had just left it on whatever channel, and Con Air was on the TV, so I was catching bits and pieces of Con Air, and I was like, I really need to watch this movie because I would love to know what they're saying right now, and it's a really cool movie. And then I tried to look for it on streaming, and it's as confusing as ever. I could buy it for like $19.99 on iTunes or whatever they call it now, but
I might know a guy who could find a digital copy of that for you somewhere.
Yes. I thought of the same idea, borrowing it from a friend on the internet.
Yes.
And after that, we do have some sad news. Steve Wilhite, creator of the GIF, has passed away.
And wow, what an incredible piece of software he created, and what a terrible controversy he fueled by refusing to acknowledge the one true name, which is, of course, GIF.
Yes.
I think everybody agrees on that.
Except for him, didn't he
I know.
say GIF?
That's what I'm saying. He maintained that it
creator.
was called GIF, and everybody's like, what are you talking about? And then there's these GIF apologists, and then there's like people like me who are right and pronounce it GIF, and then there's people like you who are like, hey, I don't want any trouble.
I'm avoiding any confrontation.
you're a conscientious objector, so to speak.
Yes.
And so you're like, let's just call it a GIF and get on with our lives.
Yes, but no, we have all enjoyed a good GIF over the days, and he did pass away, they say, from complications from COVID-19, and this story, his wife, Kathleen, they had purchased a truck and camper in hopes of camping at some of their favorite spots around the country, and then he got sick. But it is
That's
sad, and the story I linked to from NPR does talk about some of the history of the file format, and he developed it in 1987 while he was at CompuServe.
Yes. Very much of the internet's history can be traced back to this man, or at least a very narrow slice that's very important.
Yes. Well, you know what other narrow slice is very important? Dave's Pro Tip of the Week.
So this week is going to be short and sweet like many in the past, and it's very kind of a niche tip for people who primarily use the built-in applications on their iOS devices. And this has been making its rounds on the internet, and the title of this tip is Quickly Select Multiple Items on iPhone. Now, you might think, is there a universal way to do this? The answer is yes, if you use some of Apple's apps. Not all of Apple's apps have this feature, but some of them do. And those apps are Messages, Mail, Notes, and Reminders. So what is the tip? Well, I'll tell you, fine audience. I use Notes a lot. I don't hardly use Messages. I don't use the built-in mail application. Oh, I do use Messages. I do use Messages. I don't use Reminders is what I meant to say.
Yeah.
So just like anything, do what I say, not as I do, right? So here we go. Notes is the one that I use the most. And if I go into my notes on my iPhone, this works on iPad too, and I go to the main list that shows, well, actually I'm in a folder of like all of our show notes.
Oh, yes.
Now you can click the 3-dot icon at the top. You can choose select notes, and then it puts a bunch of circles next to the notes, and then you can tap whichever ones you want to select. And you might want to do this to share a bunch of them. You might want to delete a bunch or whatever. But there is a faster way to select them. In that list of items in my folder, I can simply use 2 fingers and drag down or up, I suppose. Let's try it up. Yes, it works up as well. And I can select many of them in a series. As far as I go down my list, they're all being highlighted. And so it's a super quick way to select multiple items in a list using Apple's built-in apps sometimes. So there you go.
Yes, I am very bad with multi-finger. There's very few of the multi-finger gestures either on my Mac or my iPhone that I'm very good at, but I did try this one out, and it is if you had a bunch of things to select and share or get rid of or move.
Well, imagine you get a bunch of mails from a spammer or just some newsletter from like Kohl's department store or something like that. You're like, I want to delete all these. Well, you could do a quick search, hit return. It would find everything that said Kohl's. And then you could just 2-finger swipe from the top to the bottom and hit delete. And there, 20, 30 messages are gone.
Yes.
You can save precious seconds to enjoy the latest cat GIFs on Reddit or TikTok.
Sounds like a plan. Well, let us move on to our takes of the week. They have discussed this for quite a while, but Instagram has finally launched chronological and favorites feeds for all users.
Wow.
One caveat, you cannot set it as your default. You would have to go each time and set it as your chronological and your favorites. And they do say... they are quoted as saying that they do believe and have found that most users benefit from their curated feed.
Why would they think people benefit from it?
Yes.
What's the benefit?
The actual quote was, more satisfied with a ranked feed.
Oh.
So they will not default the users in. But yeah, so if you want to see the most recent stuff or just from certain people, you can test that out in Instagram. I don't have a problem with their, what do they call it? Their ranked feed.
I don't know what they call it, but it's an algorithmic type feed.
Their algorithmic feed. That usually seems to work in my brief check of Instagram, once a day.
And I am an outlier. I use the Instagram web page. I go to the web page, then I save the icon on my iPhone desktop using the Safari browser. And so it looks just like Instagram icon, and you click it, and it looks just like Instagram in a kind of set-aside web browser. But I don't see any settings in the web view that allows for that.
Well, maybe you'll have to go back to the app if you want to try it out.
I can't do it.
And until a certain activity happened, most people were not aware that the Oscars happened last night as we recorded. I was barely aware, but notable in the tech world, Coda won for Best Picture. Now, Coda is a Apple TV Plus movie that came out and won Best Picture. So it is the first streaming movie. I think they did some limited release in theaters just so they could qualify for the Oscars.
How many billions of dollars did Apple spend so that they could get the title of the first streaming movie to win an Oscar?
Lots.
Yeah, or for Best Picture, I guess.
Best Picture, yes.
Others have won Oscars.
Yeah. But I have not seen the movie. I have heard that it is well done. I believe it is about deaf or hearing impaired people. Have you seen it?
I have not. And it's one of those movies, this happens to me a lot. Sometimes I'll just go to a random movie because I have the Regal Unlimited.
Oh, yeah.
And so it'll be like, I kind of want to see that movie, and maybe not. Like there was one a few years ago that had Jackie Chan in it. And I didn't see it anywhere on any like reviews or whatever. It's just this random movie. It was kind of an art house film, kind of a low budget. And you go to see it and you're like, well, I would never be interested in seeing that. But it's like, oh, okay. It's usually a lot different than what you see from previews and stuff. And so Coda is another one of those where it's like, I don't know if I'm that interested in it, but I bet for anybody who takes the time to watch it, they'll be thoroughly impressed, because otherwise it wouldn't have received so much attention and a good review.
Yes, indeed. I found this report and saw a couple people talking about it through the Wall Street Journal. They did a test with several different iPhone devices that have 5G built in, which most, I think all of the current devices do have 5G now that the new SE 3rd Gen has been released with 5G. But what they tested was turning off 5G and doing battery comparisons between the two, and they did find that you do get an extended battery life if you turn off 5G. Now, 5G is nice. Every once in a while, I'll do a speed test in a place, and the speeds are just insanely fast, and it's so cool, but how often you need that versus a little extra battery life, it might be worth keeping that in your toolbox. A little bonus pro tip to turn off 5G and just go with the 4G LTE. So on the iPhone SE 3rd Gen, looks like you almost get about an hour extra. The iPhone 13 Pro, which I have, it looks like more, based on this bar chart that I'm looking at, that's a little rough, over 2 hours extra battery life. The 13 mini, you're getting about an hour extra. And the iPad Air 5th Gen, you're getting about an hour and a quarter, or 2.25 hours extra.
And Nate, don't forget that in the settings on 5G iOS devices, there is also an option for 5G Auto. There's auto, and LTE. And if you're on auto, it uses 5G only when it will not significantly reduce battery life. So it's an option that you can do where it lets the phone decide.
Yes.
Now, how accurate that is, I don't know. But if you don't want to turn it off completely, you could always stick it on auto. And that's where I have mine. And I will tell you, though, that most of the time it shows 5G in my menu bar. So.
Yes, and all that to be said, the battery life on these current devices is so great. But let's say you were going to spend a full day at Disneyland or somewhere, and you knew you didn't have a battery pack with you like we recommended before, and you wanted to make sure your phone lasted as long as ever. This might be a good little thing to keep in your back pocket of turning off 5G, especially if you're not going to be streaming 4K movies or video games while you're at Disneyland, which I probably would not recommend.
Yeah, LTE is just fine.
Yes, indeed. Another intuitive person, famously the Apple mouse, the current Apple mouse, what's the technical name for the magic mouse? Magic mouse. People often say it's the worst design ever because you have to turn it over to charge it because the charging port is on the bottom, and they say it's just the worst design ever. I have some strong disagreements with that argument that it's one of the worst design moves ever, but this guy, Matty Benedetto, he makes different videos about fun stuff like this, and he's kind of a maker. So he designed a little platform with roller wheels. He 3D printed this thing that perfectly fit the back side of the mouse, so the front side of the mouse with the laser thing, and he built in a lightning cable so it could charge but still move freely on the desk. Well, he got all of this set up, and he comes to find out at the end, when the Magic Mouse is plugged in for charging, it does not track movement. So his whole project, spoiler alert, was moot because it is designed that when you have it plugged in for charging, you're not supposed to be using it, which is why they put the charging port on the bottom. Now, my perspective on this, the Magic Mouse has an extremely long battery life. They work really great. I've got a couple clients that have them, in their office, people use them. And then, after a couple weeks, or depending how much you use it,
or months.
After a couple of months when you need to charge it, you turn it over and you plug it in. Now, I believe the reason they did this is they don't want people sitting there with it plugged in all the time because that's just not a good user experience.
And maybe it's bad for the batteries, although they allow you to do it on the keyboard. But yes, when you plug it in for just a few minutes, it's usable for days.
Yeah.
So plug it in for 2 minutes, use it for the rest of the day, then plug it in over the night. It's not a problem. I agree it probably would be better to have it out the front or something. That's another thing with his design. The cable came out the back, which is weird. How many mice do you have where the cable comes out the back?
Yeah, that doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
So what a fruitless effort. But there's all these people who are angry at Apple for their design decisions, and I can get into that camp. But with this one, I'm just like, it doesn't matter. They had their reasons.
Yeah, that's the assumption that many people go off of is they just wanted to make it so you didn't see any ports, so they put it on the bottom, and it's like, no, that's part of it, but that's not the whole reason. So, but it is an interesting video to see him go through the process and do all of this stuff. Well, we do have a security and privacy story this week. There is a hacker gang that has been quite notorious lately called Lapsus $. I don't know how your Lapsus money, how you're supposed to pronounce this, as with most hacker gangs or hacker group, but they have hit Microsoft, NVIDIA, Okta, which is an authentication. They have been on fire over the last several months with their hacks, and then they taunt people by releasing, they released a bunch of Microsoft and NVIDIA source code stuff, which is never good, but they have a suspect, cyber researchers suspect a 16-year-old teenager, which that's redundant there, a 16-year-old living at his mother's house near Oxford, England. And apparently he could be the mastermind behind this. And one of the things that they were talking about is that they were able to move so quickly and hack so quickly that they figured it was some sort of robot, like automated, all this stuff. No, it just turns out it was a 16-year-old that was bored. But looks like they've caught him, and they're tracking some other ones. He's in England, and looks like they've found somebody in Brazil, so they're trying to track these people down, which is really good. It's crazy the people out there doing hacking.
Here's what probably likely happens when they catch these people. Oh, do you want to work for the U.S. government, the CIA? Like, I never see what the consequence for these people are.
Yes. And here is the quote. The teen is so skilled at hacking and so fast that researchers initially thought that the activity they were observing was automated, another person involved in the research said. And then it also says in here from Bloomberg, Lapsus $, has even gone as far as to join the Zoom calls of companies they've breached, where they have taunted employees and consultants who are trying to clean up their hack, according to 3 of the people who responded to the hacks.
Wow.
So yeah, pretty advanced
nice
group.
About it.
Yeah, no, they are jerks. Well, our bonus odd take of the week comes via cotkey.org, as they often do, and I saw this a couple places, but this YouTuber had a 360-degree camera and a GoPro that he placed in a dishwasher and took a video of how a dishwasher works. Now, it even shows in the video he goes out and he had looked up which is the best dishwasher, and he bought that one. Then he got it all set up and made a special mount for the camera and everything. It's a pretty interesting little watch. Warped Perception is the YouTube channel with 1 million subscribers. How many 1 million subscriber YouTube channels are there that you have never even heard of?
Lots.
But yeah, it's a fun little video to see. It's a little suspenseful on one of the plates that's really dirty, if it's actually going to get clean. But no spoiler alerts here, so go check it out yourself.
You know what the most surprising part of this article was? I see that they found it via Dig. Is Dig still a thing?
I think Dig is kind of still a little bit of a thing. Not what it once was, but
no.
Yes. So, and there's some suspense as well with his GoPro camera when he opens up the dishwasher and finds that the waterproof housing did not hold up to the dishwasher's various cycles. A riveting watch, nonetheless.
I will watch it and be in suspense along with everyone else.
Yes. Well, you know what else is suspenseful? Our picks of the week.
So you and I were discussing before the podcast started that there's some slim pickings here, and so we had to put our brains together. And so we have a couple of not that unconventional, but this isn't really a physical product, nor is it a game, and so it's a bit outside of the normal for me to pick this item. I have talked about it before, but it's the Xbox Game Pass. I did the 1 month free trial of this because I recently picked up, I did a trade and got an Xbox One. And so I liked the Game Pass, tried it out, and then I let it lapse for a while. And I decided, you know what? I'm going to search the internet, see if I can find a deal. And I did. I found a 3-month thing at a discount, a Game Pass subscription. So I signed up for it and I've been playing all kinds of games. It's great. I played a little bit of a game online with our friend and listener Elliot down in Australia. I've tried out the over 100 games. I haven't tried them all out. I've tried out many of the over 100 games that you can get, and they have all kinds of different subscription options. Let me just cover them real quick. What's great about it is you pay one price, and then you can download and play all of these games. And at the end of the month or 3 months or whatever, yes, you may have paid a little bit of money, but you haven't. There's no way you will ever play all these games to their fruition. The library is so vast. Nice. But they have the ultimate, which is where you can get 100 quality games on console, PC, and mobile devices. So that's like the big thing if you want to play it on anything. You can get the PC only for $10 a month, or you can get the console only for $10 a month. So if you have a PC at home or some type of Android device that you can play these games on, maybe you should get the Ultimate. But if you have just a console or a PC, you can save a little bit of money by going with those single only plans. I could probably get away with going for the $10 a month. There are some advantages, though. If you go with the Ultimate, you also get free perks and in-game content and partner offers. And the thing that I wanted was the Xbox Live Gold, which allows you to play interoperable with other people across the land over the internet. If you don't have the Gold, you just can play the games by yourself at home. So I find it to be a great value. So if you're looking to add some new games to your life without spending a lot of money, $15 a month to play over $160 games, then that's the way to do it.
Very nice. Well, my pick of the week, I'm picking the company Neewer, which we've discussed many times. I've picked some of their products in the past, but the reason I thought to pick them this week is for some reason, through the magic of internet and cross-app tracking, I'm sure, on Facebook, I started getting ads for Neewer, and they were doing mini coupons. Like every ad I saw, it was like 50% off one of their products on Amazon. Now, I don't need all of their products. A couple of the ones I've seen I already own. 50% off. They already have great prices. They do a lot of lighting, camera gear, audio stuff.
Stuff that we love.
Yeah, so much like your pick of Anchor, kind of on the power side last week, Neewer does a lot of stuff for video, photo, audio, all the stuff, like you said, that we love. I'm not sure how to tell you to get these ads. I did look. I wasn't following their Facebook page. I did find one of their ads, and pro tip, I clicked on the little dots, and there's an option, why are you seeing this ad? And it said that I am similar to their customer type and stuff. So maybe go try liking their page and then seeing if you start having this stuff show up, because you can get some really good deals. I got some more lights. I mean, it was just crazy good prices. I got something else the other week. Neewer, they've got very reasonable price stuff. You can find them on Amazon or Neewer.com. But if you can get on those Facebook ads, you will be saving some serious money.
Nate, I have to admit that I laugh every time you say the word Neewer.
Yes.
It's just funny.
And that's what I do. But it is spelled Neewer, if you couldn't phonetically spell Neewer.
Yeah, I wonder if it's supposed to be just newer. But
yes.
Who knows?
Well, who knows? Who knows? Well, with that, we have talked at you. We have shared technology. We have given you tips. We have given you picks, all so that you can share it with a friend, and then both of you can get out there and tech better. My Messages app, I force quit it and I went back in and I have spinning beach ball in my Messages app.
Weird. I burped. At effervesced.
Yes. Lovely.